18 months ago, an acidic rain ravaged the planet and destroyed everything in its path. Jocelyn survived thanks to her house being covered in a plastic tarp, as plastic seems to be impervious to this rain. But now, in the present day, food is running low and the foundation of the house is beginning to erode away. Has Jocelyn's luck finally ran out? This is Something Beyond the Petrichor, numbers 1 and 2. Hello there, Geek Collective, and welcome to Geeks Plus Comics, where we're more than just your average geek. And welcome to our review today of Something Beyond the Petrichor, numbers 1 and 2 from Red 5 Comics. Before I jump into talking about it, obviously, as you can see behind me, progressively over the last few videos, things have started to disappear, things have started to get boxed up, and as of the recording of this, I am actually moving tomorrow to my new place. So this will be the last video recorded here in this current office. Excuse me. And this is literally the last thing I'm doing on this computer before I take it apart, box it up, and get it ready for transport tomorrow. So you'll have a whole new thing to look at for our next review. So just to let you know what's going on behind me with everything that's happening there, and yeah, I'm ready to dive into this today. I want to give a special shout out before we start to Dakota Brown, the writer of Something Beyond the Petrichor. He was the one that sent the comic to us. He was the one that provided it to us to check out early access and gave us the first 3 issues to have a look at. The first 2 of which we're covering today. So thank you so much for that, Dakota. We completely appreciate that. Back at the start of the year, before we even became Geeks Plus, when we were still Comics of the Cross, we had the opportunity to sit down and talk with Dakota Brown about his other comics. So if you want to go and check out that interview, I'll put the link up there for you. But I had a chance to sit down and talk with him about Death Comes for the Toy Maker, a story looking at Santa and death and a throwback to some of the early heroes in literature. Really interesting discussion, really fun discussion, where he first actually told us about this comic. So please go and check that out. Also as well, for our December Indie Comic Book Club, we actually looked at Death Comes for the Toy Maker as well, and I'll put that link up in the corner too. So go and check that out and hear our thoughts on Dakota's other comic that we've covered here. As for Red 5 Comics, I have learned about Red 5 Comics a couple of years ago, and I've been wanting to check out their stuff for some time and just never had the opportunity to do. Things have always came up, and it's just always something we've never quite managed to get around to for various reasons. So it's an honour and privilege to be able to finally sit down and actually check out some of their stuff and talk about it on the channel, with hopefully more to come in the near future. So we are checking this out today, and it's a great privilege to do so. Before we dive into today, do all the usual YouTube stuff. Go down, hit the like button, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos from us. It really does help us out here on YouTube. Leave a comment down below if you have checked this out, or if you've checked out Death Comes for the Toy Maker. Let us know what you think of those. Also as well, if you're enjoying the content over here, we do have a Patreon where you can get early access to our videos and exclusive content over there for as little as $2 a month. The link for that will be down below, so please, if you're interested and want to help support the channel and all the other Geeks Plus channels even, go down and hit that link, and we would greatly appreciate it. But for now, let's dive on in. This is Something Beyond the Petrichor, numbers 1 and 2. Something Beyond the Petrichor, numbers 1 and 2, are written by Dakota Brown, with artwork, colours and lettering from David Lujan. Issue 1 begins in Pawson, Tennessee, or at least what used to be Pawson, back before the acid rain fell. We see a young woman, Jocelyn Alvarez, stepping outside of her house and into the desert wasteland that used to be her home. A year and a half ago, without warning, the acidic rain began to fall and burned through everything it touched. Everything, that is, except for plastic. For some unknown reason, the man-made material was completely immune to the acid rain, And it's the reason Jocelyn is alive. Her dad had been reshingling the roof and placed massive plastic tarps over the house to stop the rain from getting in. Little did he know the tarps would do their job well enough to allow his daughter and his house to survive what was to come. Jocelyn is checking the cords and pegs that are holding the tarps in place and making sure that they are still holding. As she eats a jar of peaches for her breakfast, she thinks to herself about some of the things she misses. Eggs, picnics, discernible seasons. The last one makes her think that if there were still weathermen, then their job would be pointless, as anyone with a sense of smell can tell when the rain is coming. As Jocelyn finishes her peaches, we hear another voice from inside the house yelling to her. The voice chastises her that the agreed peaches would be for breakfast or dessert only. As she looks over, we see that the voice is coming from a small stuffed turtle named Quigley. Quigley says that they have rules for a reason, and Jocelyn jests with him, like the rule you made about not going outside. Quigley retorts asking, why would he need to go outside, as they have everything that they need in their safe tarp-covered home. But that's when Jocelyn decides to break the news to him. Jocelyn sits Quigley down and tells him not to get upset. Quigley's still going on about the peaches and asks why he would get upset. Maybe because she has no respect for the ration schedule. But Jocelyn breaks the news that she's eating peaches because that's literally all they have left. Her dad had a lot of food pickled and preserved in their basement, and it had sustained them for the last 18 months, but they're finally about to run out. The rain passes and Jocelyn heads back outside of the house. Quigley follows and is freaking out that their supplies are running out. They'd estimated 2 years worth of food, and Jocelyn tries to tell him that it was an estimate and they're only 6 months short of it. While they are outside, Jocelyn looks around the house and sees that there's a gap in the foundation that looks like it's being eroded away. This is the final push that Jocelyn needs, and while Quigley keeps freaking out about the food situation, she begins to plan. Jocelyn takes a coat rack along with an umbrella and a long plastic cover over the top of it. Quigley is going from one freak out to the next as he goes from the food situation to panicking that Jocelyn is leaving their coat rack out in the rain. You know, just in case they have any guests that visit and need to hang their coats up somewhere. Jocelyn tries to explain that they're almost out of food, and on top of that, the acid rain has begun to erode the ground at the foundations of the house. If that continues, the rain will fall and pool around the cracks and start to cause the house to crumble. As the rain passes again and Quigley comes to terms with his normalcy and the world crumbling around him, they observe the coat rack in the rain, and once it passes, they inspect it. They find that the coat rack is completely unscathed. The umbrella and tarp protection works, and it's time for Jocelyn and Quigley to venture out into the wasteland. First, it's time to test and make sure the portable protection can keep them safe. Wrapped in plastic rain gear and a complaining Quigley snugly stored under her arm, Jocelyn takes to the oncoming rainstorm, and to their delight and Quigley's surprise, they survive. Jocelyn tells Quigley that he should trust her, but before she can finish her sentence, Jocelyn stops dead as she looks into the acid rainstorm and sees something looking back at her. We then see that Jocelyn has armed herself for the trip as she attempts some target practice, but rather than a typical gun, she is bringing a water gun full of acid rain. Jocelyn says she hopes it will help Quigley feel safer, although he has no idea why. He isn't sure how a water gun of acid rain is meant to protect him from more acid rain. Jocelyn explains that it's for other survivors, as there's no telling what people left in this world would do to continue surviving. And the great thing about this weapon is that there's no shortage of the ammo that's available. We then journey back 18 months, to before the acid rain ravaged the world. Jocelyn is in the front yard with her dad. We see her watering vegetables in their garden, while her dad finishes hammering in the pegs for the tarps that surround their home. Jocelyn jokes that if his goal was to make sure that they couldn't get into the house, then he succeeded, as he may have overdone it just a little bit. He shows that there is still a flap so that they can get to the door, and he tells her that the world was built by doers, but it's overdoers that make the history books. Jocelyn tells him that preventing a few drips in the house won't change the world, and he says maybe not, but it'll keep her dry, and she is his world. As her dad heads off to work, she hears a trap snapping near the back of the house next to the chicken coop. She finds a wild dog with its leg caught in the trap. Jocelyn thinks for a minute as she has no idea what to do, and then decides to take a page out of her dad's playbook and be an overdoer. She gets a raw steak from the house and gives it to the dog so that she can get the trap off of him. Free, he heads into the woods. As Jocelyn looks through the trees, she sees a creature looking back at her. A gorilla-like looking creature with two bushy fox-like tails. The same creature that we've seen looking at her through the rain at the start of the book. Back in the present day, Jocelyn, Quigley and their wagon of belongings are ready to head out. Jocelyn takes one last look at her house and thanks her dad for being an overdoer, and they head off to begin their journey. Jocelyn decides the best course of action is to head west, as the city of Chattanooga was west of them, and as a big city there's likely a lot more plastic than where they live in the sticks. The chances of there being someone else who survived the acid rain thanks to plastic is far more likely in a big city like that. The duo walk for hours through the desert in the blistering heat. Most of the time Jocelyn pulls the wagon with Quigley. Sometimes Quigley attempts to pull it with little to no success, and if the rain catches up to them, they hunker down till it passes, or they just set up a waterproof camp for the night. After walking for what feels like an eternity, they find their first sign that there was ever civilization, as there are plastic containers with spices and oil. A kitchen of some sort must have been here. Jocelyn fantasizes about some of the things that she would love to find when all of a sudden, Quigley finds a closed bottle of soda. Jocelyn says she doesn't care how flat it is, she is going to drink this. She is going to take delight in drinking all of it. As she finishes it, Quigley calls out that there is rain. She starts to pull out the umbrella for them, saying that there's no need to panic, when all of a sudden, she sees it. The creature that she's seen back at the house, and on the day the rain first came. It's here. She starts to run, and Quigley asks what she's doing. She can't outrun the rain. When all of a sudden, he sees the creature too. As they hurry, a wheel breaks off of the wagon, and it crashes to a halt. Jocelyn tries to scoop up all of the items that she can in her hands, and continues to run from the rain. But in her hurry, she trips on the plastic cover for the umbrella, and her, Quigley, and all of their belongings crash to the ground. And the issue comes to a close, with both the rain and the creature that seems to travel within it, bearing down upon them. Issue 2 begins with a flashback to 14 years ago, when Jocelyn was just a little girl. She and her dad were visiting a public park in Chickamauga, Georgia. Her dad shows her a honeysuckle flower, which she picks a petal off of. He tells her that they really shouldn't be doing this, as it's a public park. But what's the point of sweet honeysuckle if it's not to be enjoyed? Jocelyn asks if they're going to take it home and put it in a jar, but her dad responds that they're going to eat it. Jocelyn wrenches her face, saying she's not going to eat a flower, but her dad convinces her to trust him and squeezes the nectar onto her tongue, to which she is ecstatic as it tastes sweet. As her father returns to the flowers, something through the trees catches Jocelyn's eye. She asks her dad what those lights are. 2 green lights. She said that they were there, but they seem to be gone now. Her father tells her that that was green ice. He proceeds to tell her that there was a battle here during the Civil War, and a number of people died. He tells that the ones who survived swear that they saw a green-eyed beast walking amongst the dead and sniffing at their bodies. There are different stories to what he was doing, with some believing that he was helping to usher their souls into heaven. But regardless, Jocelyn's dad tells her that she's lucky, as very few people alive can say that they have seen green eyes. Back in the present, I'm not sure if Jocelyn's luck is continuing or about to run out, as green eyes is now more visible than ever as he stands over her and Quigley in the middle of the acid rain. Then the acid rain begins to pass them, and once they are safe from the rain, Green Eyes steps back and continues to travel with the storm. It seems that he wasn't intending to threaten them, but to protect them from the acid rain as it fell. Jocelyn and Quigley pick themselves up and gather their belongings. They've lost 2 jars of peaches in the midst of their fleeing Green Eyes. Quigley asks what that thing was, and Jocelyn says that it was an old friend. Kind of. Although she isn't sure whether he's good or bad, and has never gotten that close to him before. As they continue on their journey, they come across a child's plastic playhouse, covered by a clear plastic tarp and piles of tires surrounding the house. Quigley says that it's absolutely awful that a child is living like this, to which Jocelyn responds she highly doubts that it's a child that made this. As they approach the playhouse, its door opens and out emerges a scraggly white-haired hermit, wearing nothing but a pair of red shorts and pink slippers. He grumbles to himself that his knee is aching on account of the rain, but looks up to notice Jocelyn and Quigley. As he excitedly charges forward at the sight of another person, Quigley yells that he's a bandit and for Jocelyn to shoot him. She shakily attempts to fire but drops the water gun in the process. The hermit stops in his tracks, saying where are his manners, and charges back to the playhouse, where he grabs plastic-wrapped snack cakes and brings them as a gift for the first person that he has likely seen in quite some time. The hermit gives a couple to Jocelyn, who can't believe her eyes, and happily opens and eats the snack cakes. The hermit introduces himself as Beanie. At least that's what he used to go by on account of him always wearing a beanie. Or, at least he did used to wear a beanie before the rain destroyed it. Jocelyn introduces herself and Quigley, and tells Beanie that they're on their way to Chattanooga, to see if there was anything left. Beanie tells his story that he was on a bender the day the rain came, as he had a bit of an issue with alcohol back in the day. He passed out in his neighbour's yard inside a kid's playhouse, and when he finally came to, there was no longer any neighbours, or neighbourhood. Once he sobered up, he started to collect as much plastic as he could, and built what he now calls home. As he talks about his luck in finding all the plastic-wrapped snacks that he's been living on, Jocelyn shares that her dad had canned and preserved like the apocalypse was coming, and when it did, that's what kept her going. As she unveils the jar of peaches, Beanie flips out like a madman and digs through his stash to find a packet of yeast to add the peaches, in an apparent hope of making something alcoholic. Jocelyn says she is more than happy to trade the jar for some stuff for the journey ahead. Some snacks, maybe drinks. But Beanie says that they don't want to go out there, as there are all sorts of weird things in the rain. Jocelyn tells him that they've already survived an encounter with Green Eyes, but Beanie has no idea what she's talking about. The creatures he encountered have slimy yellow bodies, and his description leaves Jocelyn wondering what else is out there. Jocelyn sees that another rainstorm is heading their way, and says that they better get going. But if there's anything that he's willing to part with in exchange for the peaches, they would greatly appreciate it. But as Jocelyn turns round, Beanie delivers a massive right hook that knocks her out stone cold. As Jocelyn passes out in the present, we get another flashback on her life, this time to 8 years ago, when she's in a Tennessee aquarium with her dad, and is a little more in her angry teenage phase. Something happened and she's waking up. She picks herself off the floor saying that someone pushed her. to which her dad says that he was right behind her and there was no one. Jocelyn then decides to start throwing accusations at her dad, saying that he's the one that pushed her, but he says that makes no sense. Why would he push her when he's the one that has to pay for her medical bills? Although he does remind her that Boo Boo kisses are free and kisses her on the head, causing her to have a freak out. As they leave, he says that it's dinner time and asks if she wants to get some pizza, but all Jocelyn can say is that she wants to go home and lie down as she thinks she has a concussion. Before they can leave though, Jocelyn's dad spots carriage rides and only $20 for an entire hour. Jocelyn says that they could be back home in an hour. Her dad isn't sure what to do. He thought she'd love it as she loves horses and asks for one every birthday. But this is the last straw for Jocelyn. She yells that she hasn't asked for a horse since she was 7 and that he doesn't know her at all. She doesn't like jellyfish or horses and wishes that he would just stop treating her like a baby and get over the fact that she's grown up. After that, she storms off through the park. Quigley wakes up Jocelyn in the present. As she comes to, she has no idea what happened, and Quigley fills her in that she got a little sleep aid called Crazy Man's Fist. She asks where their stuff is, and Quigley tells her that it's right where they left it. But as she steps through the plastic tarp, she's stopped in her tracks by a spray of acidic water. Beanie's found and armed himself with the deadly water gun, amused at the idea that a kid's toy in the old world is such a deadly weapon in this one. Jocelyn says that he can have it, to which he retorts, well, he already does, spraying another stream of acidic water in her direction to prove a point. Beanie now goes into full crazy mode, standing over Jocelyn and getting in her face aggressively, asking if he can trust her. Jocelyn holds Quigley tight as fear sets in and she says that she just wants to go. Beanie grabs Jocelyn and says that he's offering her the world. Shelter from the rain, supplies, companionship. Beanie throws Jocelyn underneath the tarp and says that her other option is to be out in the rain, but he can protect her. All she has to do is stay. Jocelyn is terrified and holds Quigley tight, telling him that they should never have left home. Beanie grabs Quigley away, and as he looks at him, asks her if she actually thinks her little friend can hear her. Isolation hasn't been kind to her. Beanie throws Quigley aside and says her new best friend will look out for her. As the rain approaches, Jocelyn grabs Quigley again and holds him close, while Beanie makes one last offer. Stay here, or take your chances out there. But unbeknownst to him, there's a creature in the rain, watching the situation, possibly just observing what's happening, but also possibly waiting for the opportune moment to intervene. And that was Something Beyond the Petrichor, issues 1 and 2. This was a really interesting read. Very different from anything we've kind of done before. It's a post-apocalyptic set story, but it's very much... It feels very slice of life. It's very slow-paced and takes its time. It's very self-contained. It's about Jocelyn, it's about her journey, and we don't really interact with that much across the first 2 issues. And I know there's another 2 issues to go. It's a 4-issue series. But it takes its time in telling the story, but yet it gives you enough. You know, it's like it makes you feel what you should feel during this story. You should feel Jocelyn's loss and isolation, and if you had a house that was protected with plastic and that had all these canned and preserved goods, then you wouldn't venture out far either. You wouldn't head out into the world either, because what's out there? What if it's more desert? What if it's more wasteland? You would stay put and try and survive. Even the fact of that Quigley is a living being for her that interacts separately from her. She's made a friend for herself in isolation. And you feel that with the story because we don't see anything beyond her home until we travel and run into Beanie in issue 2. The only other parts of the world we see are pre-acid rain with her and her father. And it's also really interesting that, you know, her father was the one that put the tarp up, and when the rain is about to fall, we see their relationship right before it happens, and it seems to be on good terms. It's a good father-daughter relationship. They're close, they're bonded. But it's really interesting because we get to see the progression of it, as well as him with his daughter as this little girl, and then her going through those angsty teen years where she's really not interested and is really angry. He doesn't understand her, all the usual stuff that you kind of hear from that, you know, that you would hear from a teen. So we get to see across the first 2 issues this evolution of their relationship, from teaching his daughter, raising his daughter, to her being, you know, the angsty teen pull-away, to it coming back together, and his final act of wrapping up the house being the thing that ends up saving her. Like, it's really interesting to see it play out like that. As much as I do enjoy the story, and I'm really intrigued to see where the next couple of issues go, it's like I have to absolutely give it to, let me just double check his name, David Lujan. I want to make sure I'm saying it right. David Lujan dude, his artwork in this is phenomenal. His artwork is great, which he does a lot for what he's given, considering a lot of what he gets is basically desert wasteland. But it's not just his art, it's his colours. The guy is a master use of his colours. The very sepia tone, very kind of light colouring, almost like with an orange glaze over it for the present day, in contrast to the colourfulness that we see in the past, that we see when she's a little girl and the day that the acid rain came, compared to even the colours he uses when she's a teenager, and it's a bit darker and almost a blue tone to it, which can show that the fact that they're in the aquarium when the flashback first starts, but it also shows that angstiness of her teenage years and that darkness and heaviness that teenagers carry on them. Like, it's phenomenal. It's so well done. And I've got to give full credit to him for that. It's like, it really does make the book. It really does give it its unique style to it. And with the story being kept so simple, the artwork is almost allowed to flow, and the artwork is allowed to express all the stuff that you would expect to hear and feel and connect with. And it's done so well in this book. I'll be honest, I don't think this book will be for everyone. I think there are definitely people who will pick this book up, and I wouldn't be surprised if they found it boring, if they found it not a lot is happening in it. But at the same time, if you're willing to give it a chance, willing to give a slow burn story with a unique perspective on an apocalyptic world a chance, I think it's something you would enjoy. And if you're someone who enjoys expression through artwork, then this is definitely one for you to check out. So I would highly recommend checking it out if you're intrigued. And if you liked Dakota Brown stuff that we covered before, then definitely I would recommend giving this a shot. I'm happy to have checked it out, and I'm definitely going to be checking out issues 3 and 4 of this, and definitely seeing how they wrap up the story. But I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and if this is what Red 5 Comics has got to offer, then I'm more than happy to delve into some more of their work and some more of their comics and see what is out there. But that is it for me for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, guys. Remember, go on down, leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below if you enjoyed this book as well. And also remember to subscribe so that you don't miss out on seeing my new setup when I get up and running in my brand new place, and see what my new streaming setup's going to look like. But that's all from me for today. You all have an amazing weekend, and remember, it's a good week to be a geek. Take care. I'll see you all next time. Peace.